Hello everyone, welcome back. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm really excited for today's video. I've stuck my eyelashes on wonky and I've only just realised. On my eyes today, just before we get into it, I have the Lin's and Blend Bunny and Glisten Cosmetics. Well, I don't have a Glisten Cosmetics side on. Collaboration, beautiful palette, beautiful brushes, just so stunning. And it has some water activated liners too. Really beautiful. I have a little reel over my Instagram of me trying it. I also have a discount code for them if you want to use it. I'll link it all below. But beautiful again from Blend Bunny. Okay, so today's video is I'm like I said, I'm really excited because I asked on my Instagram, I was looking for makeup artists, working makeup artists, to help me with a little experiment, right? As I always say, creativity and individuality have no rules, but makeup has a theory, right? And we learn that theory through different makeup artists, through practice, through our experiences as makeup artists. And as professional makeup artists, we all have different techniques, different experiences, and all this kind of stuff. For those of you who don't know, I have been a professional makeup artist for a lot of my life now, about 18 years before I was an influencer. So I have a lot of experience there. So I saw a comment recently that someone made, and it was something along the lines of, one person talking about someone else, something along the lines of, this is why this person has more followers than you. And it's like, okay, this is something that really irritates me, because if we say, for example, that followers equals correct knowledge. For example, I have, let's say YouTube, I have 1 million followers here, right? Somebody on YouTube also might have 500 followers. Let's take it to Instagram. That person might have 1 million followers on Instagram, whereas I only have 300, not only, but I have 300 something thousand on Instagram. So if we say, for example, that followers equals correct knowledge, and I post the same content on different platforms, that would be saying that my knowledge on YouTube is greater than this person's. But if I put that same knowledge on Instagram, it's lesser than this person's, even though it's the same knowledge. Does that make sense? I hope I'm making sense here. Another comment that people say that actually annoys me a little bit is when you do a technique, and I've seen this on mine, and I've seen this on a lot of people. For example, some people tag me and stuff. They might leave a comment on another creator's, another makeup artist's content and say, well, that's not what Robert Welsh says. It's like, don't drag me into this. A lot of makeup artists say different things. And that's why I often say, get your reviews, your makeup knowledge from multiple people. Here's what I wanted to do today. I asked 15 different makeup artists to answer the same questions. Not all 15 are going to answer the same ones. I have 3 makeup artists answering the same makeup question because I wanted to prove a point, right? And these makeup artists are from different experiences. Some of them create social media content, some of them don't. You'll notice they teach differently. You'll notice that they talk differently. You'll notice that the advice they give might be different to someone else's. But more than anything, you're going to notice some similarities in the advice they give. What I wanted to prove with this video is followers don't mean a single thing unless you are trying to make money from social media. That's it. So if you're looking for makeup artists online, whether it's for a job, whether it's to go and have your makeup done, don't take follower count as a value. You can have 10 followers on Instagram and give advice to somebody who has 10 million. I still have the same knowledge that I did when I started YouTube in makeup. Well, I've learned some other things along the way, but my knowledge and advice is very similar to when I had no YouTube channel, or to when I had 10 subscribers on YouTube, to when I do 1 million or 3 million on Facebook or 300,000 on TikTok, 300,000 on Instagram. My knowledge is the same over all different platforms, right? But that knowledge doesn't lessen because I have less followers on one platform or become greater value because I have more followers on another platform. I hope this is making sense because I just really want to put this across. So I have 15 different makeup artists, all different ages, genders, races, experience, different follow accounts on social media. Some of them are used to be on camera, some of them don't even want to be, and they're just doing this for me as a favor. You know what I mean? It's not their deal. They are makeup artists, not content creators. So I just want to give a huge shout out to every single one of them who took time to help me make this and actually stuck to a deadline for me. I greatly appreciate it and value your time and your knowledge and your experience. Every single one of them is linked down below in the description box, and I'll put them in number order they appear on screen. If you resonate with any of these artists and their experience and their words, perhaps you see yourself in them, perhaps you get value from their advice, please do go and support them. It's great that you follow me here and I greatly appreciate it. But as I always say, we should always get knowledge from other people, and follow account doesn't equal knowledge. So please do go and check them out. They're from all over the world. So all their details in the description box, their businesses, where to follow them online, their websites, everything. So I'm going to answer every single question with my knowledge, and then I'm going to insert all the videos here. I only watch the first 5 to 10 seconds just so I could see that their audio is okay and the visual is okay. So all the knowledge isn't going to be me feeding from them. You may encounter opposite views, opposite opinions. Just wanted to jump in here really quickly. I just finished editing this video and I want to mention a few things. The first thing is, when you're listening to the advice from these makeup artists, please do also bear in mind that they are working makeup artists. So some of their advice is split into doing makeup on yourself, but then also advice to artists who are doing makeup on other people. So you may hear some conflicting information, but listen out whether they're talking about doing makeup on someone else or on yourself. Also, I want to mention that everyone did have the same amount of time. I gave him a time limit, but at the same time I did say, but I'm not cutting you off because your advice is valuable. So I'm not going to cut you off. So you will see that some people's are pretty short, some people's are a little bit longer. Also, one last final thing before we get right into it. Listen very carefully because no one's advice is exactly the same. So it does sound very, very similar. You're going to notice some very heavy similarities, but everyone's advice is very slightly different, which I just found really interesting watching this. So although you might think you're hearing the same advice, listen deeply and listen like intently, because the advice is slightly different and there is advice in here for everyone. So back to me. It's just going to be really, really interesting because I just want to show everyone knowledge is different, experience is different, but it's all correct to that artist. And this is why you follow who you resonate with, right? Or you get advice from who you resonate with. You book who you resonate with. Okay, let's do it. And this is absolutely going to be a longer video. So this is going to be a great one to do while you're, cleaning, washing up, or you don't mind sitting through a video. I know people's attention spans nowadays aren't the best, but yes, okay. And these are questions that I asked you on socials, and I've kind of combined all the most frequently asked and the most popular questions. So the first one is, how do I stop concealer under my eyes creasing? This is one of those questions that people ask all the time because it's so common, right? People haven't stopped asking it because there is no stop to it. You know what I mean? Skin moves, your eyes move here. If a skin moves, there's nothing you can really do about it. I know it's not the answer everyone wants to hear. Until somebody creates makeup that stretches and holds back and pulls out the skin, all we can really do is kind of like make sure it doesn't happen as fast and repair it. So I always say, think about how you're going to repair it. First of all, the skin under the eyes, hydrate it because it's quite dry. Dry things, if you think about how something is dry, it kind of crinkles up. So when we're putting on concealer, maybe color corrector, powder under our eyes, we're weighing down the skin under our eyes. It's extremely thin as well, right? So you're pulling it down, it's creasing, then you're drying it out. It's gonna crease, it's gonna look liney, it's gonna look not great. You're accentuating that texture. Imagine if you have texture around your nose here or a dry patch and you put loads of stuff in it and you put powder in it and you're just emphasizing that texture. The best thing to do is hydrate under the eye first. With an eye cream, with maybe a little bit of a priming oil, the tiniest amount. Build up a product gradually. Don't go in with loads and loads of product because it's going to be too much and you're going to weigh it down. Leave it a few seconds, see if it gives you a crease, and then tap with your finger, I like to, or a little brush, just to smooth out that crease, and then you can apply a small amount of powder. Now that can be on an eyeshadow blending brush like this one. It could be with a soft puff. Either way, you really want to push that powder into the product and make it and set it very gently, a very minimal amount. Throughout the day, if this starts to get even more creasier, all I like to do is just look up and tap with the finger. Perhaps you can hydrate it again with a hydrating mist and use a little bit more concealer on top. There's no way to stop it forever. That would be my answer. I am answering quite quickly because I want to fit everybody in and have them have their time on camera. Okay, so let's see what advice our makeup artists give for this question.
My name is Alannah Hilton and I am a professional makeup artist in Calgary, Canada. The question that Robert gave me is, how do I stop concealer under my eyes from creasing? I feel like that is an age-old question for makeup artists and just anyone who wears makeup in general. It's tricky. It's a really tricky issue, I think, for a lot of us. So first and foremost, I feel like managing our expectation and just understanding that the skin under our eye is thin. It's really thin, really delicate skin. And skin is going to have texture. Skin's going to move. It's almost near impossible to make sure that nothing moves or creases throughout the day, no matter how perfect the product, how perfect the placement, how perfect you set everything, who did it for you, whether it's professionally done by yourself at home. Just understand that skin is skin, and your under eye especially is a very fine, very, very delicate area. So just be kind to yourself if you do see anything moving around or showing up greasy texture in photos or in real life. Aside from that, I feel like no matter what products you're using, makeup technology is so incredible now. There's so many different, options out there for people, whether you have dry skin or oily skin, or even, age. If you have more mature skin type, any sort of texture that you're dealing with, there's so many different formulas out there now. I personally prefer something that's a little bit thinner and a little bit more liquid. I just find that it does a much better job of mitigating texture or looking heavy under the eye. And when you are getting that movement, that inevitable movement, you don't have as many emollients or thick things that are kind of like pressing against itself. All that aside, though, I think that a lot of it can come down to placement and technique and how things are kind of being applied and set. So when you are applying your concealer, we're not using our fingers, we're not rubbing it in frantically. I don't think that there's anything inherently wrong with using your fingers, but how we're applying it into the skin is really, really important. So, no rubbing, no doing any of this, but kind of tapping, pressing product into the skin. If you are going to use, a brush, making sure that we're pressing it gently, tapping it gently underneath the eye, as opposed to rubbing or blending, buffing, any of those sorts of movements. So tapping it into the skin, making sure not to pull. Don't pull, don't rub, don't try to press it into any sort of creases or any sort of texture. Tap it, and when you're building coverage, making sure you're tapping it as well. Build in really thin, light layers is really, really helpful. Don't apply too many things underneath it, too many emollients. I always say to clients, priming is a step, not a product. So I feel like less is more when you're building that coverage. Don't do too much. The more layers you have, again, it's going to work kind of against you, and you're going to create those creases. You're going to create a little bit of texture. And then finally, when you are setting it, not every under eye needs to be baked. And I know that can be a very, very controversial take, especially on the internet, but not everything needs to be baked to be set. Using, picking up a small amount of product on a brush and kind of tapping off your excess, and again, pressing it. That's really going to be super, super crucial for your application, is when you're applying concealer, when you're applying your powder, anything, anywhere really on the face, but especially underneath the eye, anywhere that we have, a really, really fine kind of area that we want to build coverage without it looking too heavy and too kind of creasy. Tapping it. So same when you're, sorry, my dog's here. Same when you're setting it, picking up a tiny little bit of powder on your brush, taking off the excess. We don't need to scoop up product, pack it on underneath the eye. Just a tiny little bit, tap, tap, tap right in the area where you applied your concealer, and then you can gently buff it if you need to. But I would just say to keep it short and sweet. Thin layers, don't apply too much. Make sure you're pressing your product, whether it's a powder or a liquid, and then leave it. Don't fuss with it. Don't overblend. None of that. Sorry, my dog's driving me nuts now, but I hope that's helpful. That's one take from one makeup artist across the pond, and I hope that's helpful to someone.
My name is Lisa Caldognetto. I am a pro makeup artist. I've been a makeup artist for, I want to say, about 20 or so years. I started off life on Makeup Counter, and I was at Benefit, then I went to MAC, worked my way up into the training team, the pro team with MAC, did some amazing things, and then I spread my wings and flew off into the world of, does that make sense? Flew off into the world of freelance makeup artistry, and it's been wonderful. And on the side of it, I do content creation. Because when I started, can you believe I used to do Facebook Lives? Hilarious. That just shows my age, do you know what I mean? What I love about makeup is the fact that it's a really simple concept that you can use to express yourself. You can bring much joy to yourself and many people with it, and that's why I love sharing my tips, because I have touched 1,000 and million billion faces, no exaggeration, and I love what I do, and seeing people leave a little bit taller, a little bit more like fabulous once you've helped them out with however small or big their, you know, problem or question around makeup is. So my question, let me get it up so I read it right. How do I stop concealer creasing under my eyes? Okay, let's be real here. I've also written notes because I'm really professional on a torn up bit of paper. So this concept, I think, is very much something that it's a marketer's dream, because what they want you to do is be sold an idea and a concept that kind of is impossible to fully solve. Yes, there are ways around it, but we are promised a lot of things from products and skincare that will mean a few things. Okay, I'm 39, right? I'm gonna come up close. I've just trodden on something, great, and show you. This is my under eye, okay? There are lines, and it's very normal. Everyone's makeup, genetic makeup, is very different, and how we all age, even when some people are young, they have quite a lot of maybe like defined lines around the eye that are really, well, there's no getting rid of them because it's part of you and who you are. So if you pick up a product that says, I'm gonna delete your under eyes, well, it doesn't exist. Okay, so let's talk facts, let's talk real. I'll give you some tips. First things first, hydration. A lot of the time we're deeply hydrated under the eye. Even if you drink 20 gallons of your water, always need to be reminded to drink water. I do anyway, I'm rubbish. It's one of those things that needs hydration, so those gel under eye masks and eye cream, they are amazing because they are going to do the job. But equally, if you use too much product, and there's going to be a theme with that, if you use too much product, when you put your eye cream on or your mask, make sure you tap off or tissue off any excess, because if there's too much moisture, it's going to cause like motion. It's going to do this. So it's going to make everything sit and move, and no one's going to be happy with that, okay? So that's the first thing. Really hydrate, blot off the excess moisture, okay? And when it comes to applying your concealer or under eye corrector, whatever you use, a lot of people will take their concealer right up to their lower lash line. And let's say for like a real natural look, this is gonna look very unnatural because around our lash line, believe it or not, mine aren't naturally blue. This is a bit of makeup. I'm doing a little makeup challenge. 30 days of, what's it called? 30 days of Festive Beauty. I should know the name of this because I've said it many times. It's the Glam Advent Calendar with Lisa. There you go. Head to my, wherever you find me, I'm there. It's there. Enjoy. This is one of the looks. So we all have a natural bit of, do I call it discoloration? But there's a little bit of brown, a little bit of pink, a little bit of purple, a mixture of tones around the eye. We don't look kind of, I don't know, we look really weird with, and it does a strange thing to the eye shape when you take concealer off the eye. Obviously everyone is open and entitled to their own personal style of makeup. Like, you do you, boo. I really don't care. You do you. What makes you happy? But if you want quite a natural look and you're concerned with the lines, apply your concealer, like, see where that dip, or feel where that brow bone hits. Brow bone? Oh my god, guys. Orbital bone. So just here and here. So you're avoiding anywhere where you see that little dip here and here. So you're avoiding where those lines naturally sit. Therefore, there's less likely to be movement, so things shouldn't transfer and sit into lines is what I'm trying to say, okay? You don't want to apply too much product. When you pop your concealer on, leave it to dry a minute or two. Leave it to dry, do something else. Maybe do your brows, maybe do your lips, I don't know, curl your lashes, do something else. Let it dry down a little bit, and then after you've blended it out, pat it with your finger or even like a little powder puff to lift off the excess. So this will avoid things from sitting and caking and taking any excess off. But hopefully if you've patted it and whatnot, or not used too much product, it shouldn't build up too much anyway. Using a lightweight powder will really help. Something potentially talc free is a good option. You get a lot of powders now that are kind of eye brightening and kind of blurring. They might contain silica, which is a fantastic ingredient to help kind of smooth things out a little bit under the eye, like a little bit of a surface kind of filler. And once again, don't be like mushroom cloud of smoke kind of vibes. No, you want to either work the product into your brush so you almost don't see any product or minimal product, and then when you can't help but get a brush, such a makeup artist, and then you just want to bounce to set that powder around the eye really simply, and you can kind of do your hot spots powdering while you're at it too. And if you use a puff, a really good tip with a puff is when you put your product on your puff, if you almost get the puff and rub it into itself, that will kind of push the product into the fibre and that kind of velcro, it's not velcro, it's like a microfiber kind of velvety texture cloth, and that will just take the excess away, and then you can again lightly powder around the eyes. Okay, if you find it gets a little bit too heavy, you can get a bit of a mist. Something with that glycerin is a really lovely ingredient to look at to kind of move product, to kind of avoid a setting spray at this point, because obviously setting sprays is to like fooled you. Yeah, that's what happens when you take setting spray. It freezes time. So you want to spritz a mist, ideally again onto a brush, about that far away, just under a, I mean that's a full ruler. We're talking maybe 20 centimeters. So it's a light mist, and then what you can do is pop it over the concealer where it's settled into the lines, and then again pat the excess away, and it'll just allow you to rework that product, warm it up, and there you go. I hope you have enjoyed these tips, and I think what is so interesting about makeup is everyone has an opinion. There's no right or wrong way, but there's a lot of theory in makeup. It's very geeky, which I am so here for and really enjoy kind of deep diving into. But I think it's just about finding something that works for you, and you don't have to throw shade at people that don't do it a certain way, because it doesn't matter. All that matters is that you wear it, you love it, you look cute, you're fabulous, okay? Thank you so much for having me, Robert. Bye!
So you want to stop your concealer from creasing, but you don't know how to. Well, don't worry, I'm here to help you. Hello, hi, my name is Sam, also known as Your Makeup Doctor on TikTok. I'm not a licensed professional doctor in any way, shape or form, but I am here to provide you with some educational makeup content and just overall theory. And I think that one of the biggest misconceptions, we'll say, on social media at the moment is that you can completely get rid of under eye creasing with, let's say, a product or a certain technique. Let's just come out and say it. So physically, we cannot stop under eyes from creasing. We cannot physically stop skin from folding.
which is what our under eyes are doing. So until a surgery or a technology comes out where that can happen, this is probably the best technique that I found anyway. We need to know two main things, and these are very important things, before we jump into actually applying the concealer. So the first thing you need to know, your under eye area. So I'm going to take off my glasses. So this area here is the driest, one of the driest parts of skin on our face. It is so unbelievably thin as well, to the point where we really have to be careful how much product we're putting on it and what texture the product that we are putting on it is. So for this reason, personally, and I would recommend this for most people out there, I don't like to use matte finish concealers, whether that's a liquid or a cream. I don't really like to use matte finish. I find it to be way too drying on such a dry place already, and I think that it just greatens the chance of creasing happening. So that is personal preference, and I therefore like to go for kind of more of a satin finish, slightly luminous finish, creamier concealer. Number two, because it's such a dry place on our face, we really want to get as much hydration in as possible before we actually put on the makeup. So I personally like to use, even with a hydrating or luminous finish concealer, I really like to add extra hydration, just a slight amount, just to give the concealer a fighting chance. And I like to go in with an eye gel. You can use an eye cream. It does not have to be mega expensive or fancy, just something that will hydrate the under eye area, as well as something that will absorb quite quickly and nicely, because if we have this eye gel or eye cream on, and we then put on the concealer before it has finished kind of setting down or soaking into the skin, it will mess with the concealer, and you know, so many things can go wrong. So I like to use this. This is the Boots Everyday Eye Gel, the Cucumber Eye Gel. And basically what this does is provide just complete hydration. There's a lot of hydrating ingredients in here, so that's why I like to use it. And I literally take my finger and I put a very small amount, I'm talking that size amount, on the under eye area, and I will literally just massage it like this. And this is my skin after I've literally just cleansed it and moisturized a tiny bit, as I do every time I put on my makeup. We just want to get it as distributed as possible. Now that we've got that, I am also going to let that sit in for a bit. The reason why I'm letting it sit is because it needs to absorb so that it's not interfering with the actual formula, and it's gonna set down very quickly. It's a very thin base and it's a gel. With an eye cream, I recommend working a little bit faster and letting it set down a little bit longer, because eye creams, they are more emollient and oil based. You do want to wait for that to properly set in. Any concealer that you personally feel works for you is a great option. I personally, again, recommend a luminous finish slash satin kind of finish concealer, because it just makes the skin look more alive, and again, helps us not crease as much. So my concealer of choice is my favorite at the moment, or one of my favorites, the House Labs Triclone Skin Tech. This has an incredible medium to full coverage and is a very creamy and rich formula. I personally, now this is where you might go wrong without knowing. So you can put concealer on with the wand straight onto the skin. There's no, no one's gonna police you in that way. But I think the main thing that I can teach you is the less product that you have on this very thin area of your face, the better. Because what happens when you start to cake up lots of product is that there's way too much product on such a thin area, where it starts to just become way too cakey and way too messy. And I really like to build up slowly with the product. Again, in makeup, I always like to live by the saying of, we can add, but we can hardly ever take away. So I like to literally just put it on at the back of my hand like so. A nice liberal amount. You don't want it to be too much, but you also don't want it to be too little. So I like to, let's say, I'd probably go with like a half a pea size amount just on the back. And I'm gonna take this finger, I forgot the name, but this finger, and I am going to start rubbing the concealer like this on my finger. So what this is doing is warming up the concealer and warming up the base. So it's basically making it even creamier than it already is, allowing for it to be thinner than it already is. So I'm now going to pick it up, as you can see, a very light amount, and I am literally going to use my finger and start tapping into the under eye. Now, the reason why I'm not using a brush or a sponge is because, one, I feel like a brush will apply too much product. I feel like it's not going to absorb as much, and therefore we're going to be left with an excess of product. And then with a sponge, you can use one. I personally feel like the sponges kind of eat half of the concealer. Even when they're damp, I feel like they just kind of take away too much product. And we're really trying to focus on getting like the perfect amount here. I am not going to focus on, you know, making it look absolutely perfect right now, because we can obviously go back and add more if we want to. Skin is looking really nice, really hydrated and really creamy. I personally today want a little bit more coverage, and this is just a very gentle method. I think that with a brush or a sponge, there's kind of too much happening at once where you can't really control how much product is going on. Whereas with your fingers, the finger does a really good job at thinning down the formula and spreading it evenly, because also your skin absorbs some of the product naturally. And that is the concealer on. So that is personally how much coverage I like. Obviously, your concealer, your preference as to how much coverage you want. This is where I like to go. And then this is the key. So you can use powder. That is allowed. You can use powder, but it needs to be very thin and finely milled. The reason why we do not want to use a thick or cakey or clumpy powder is because it is going to add that dry looking texture that we are not trying to get. I have to say, please, I mean, we're in Robert's video, so I feel like that is just, we have to say this. Please do not bake. Baking is going to ruin everything that we are trying to do. Baking is just applying way too much powder onto the under eye, more than's necessary. And baking is really only used for when you are under professional lighting, on camera, if you're being filmed, if you are, you know, doing any type of theatrical makeup. It's not really something necessary for the everyday person. And it can really make the makeup look a lot drier and crustier and cakier. I don't really want to bake. I think it's going to make everything look really, really dry. Now you can use a loose powder. I personally like to take a pressed powder because I feel like they are a little bit more easier to build up with. I feel like a loose powder kind of applies too much product at once. Again, we are really trying to go as slow as we can here. I am going to be using the Pat McGrath Skin Fetish Sublime Perfection Blurring Under Eye Powder. It's a tongue twister. And you don't want a dense brush here. So I am going to take this brush here. This is from Made by Mitchell. And it's just a very nice synthetic, fairly small brush. I don't want something too big. And before I put on the powder, I'm just gonna go back in and tap out any creases that may have formed naturally, just so we can get the best result. Don't go too aggressively. Just, you know, lightly, like we were before, just back and forth. Now I'm gonna go into the powder, and this is a very finely milled powder. You really want almost like a powder that kind of disappears into the skin, and therefore I feel like higher end powders are usually nicer for that, because I feel like they have the budget to kind of mill them a bit finer. Find a drugstore one that is really nice and finely milled and thin and buildable. Please use it. I am just going to go in a tiny bit, tap off as much of the excess as I can. We do not want too much product. If we have too much product on, it's gonna be very hard to fix it. So on the brush, and then literally swipe. Now, you might be wondering, why am I swiping and not tapping? Now, you can tap if the powder is very thin, but what tapping is doing is basically, it's kind of pressing excess product in where we don't need to. Swiping will still apply the product. It's not gonna get rid of it, but it's going to apply it a bit gentlier and also a bit more in a buildable manner. Whereas if we are stamping, we're really pushing a lot of product into the skin. So I like to just swipe, and then we're done. And then this is the concealer set. That is how you can do your best to stop your concealer from creasing throughout the day. For me, this will now last perfectly like this for around 11 to 12 hours before I start seeing any real lines. So I really hope this helped. So again, main things to keep in mind: hydration, not any excess product, and build up. That is what I really recommend to get the most flawless under eyes you can. So yeah, thank you so much. And thank you, Robert.
Okay, next question. Is it better to apply foundation with a brush or a sponge? This is one of those questions where it's like, it's better to do this, but also you can do this. Brushes and sponges are all acceptable versions of applying foundation. I personally, on myself, on clients, prefer brushes. I feel like I have more control. I feel like I can buff more. I feel like I can choose the density where my hand is. I feel like there's nothing else kind of, some sponges, like beauty blender sponges, I feel kind of pick up the foundation. Personally, I just don't like the water within them. But then I do really like flat pads like this for foundation on myself. I like to push really into skin. I guess my answer then would be whatever enables you to really buff that product into the skin, and what makes you feel like you have full control over your product would be my answer. But then there are other situations, for example, if you have quite texture skin, if you have what's called peach fuzz, like that light hair around here, sponges can interfere with that texture, make hair stand on end, so you always have to wipe it down. So it really depends on the individual. However, if I'm doing a client, it will always be brushes for the ease of cleaning as well. I have used sponges sometimes. And I think it depends how your skin is and how you feel. Sometimes you just want to whack out a sponge. Sometimes you just want to use a brush. There are benefits to using both. However, I feel the benefits of brushes outweigh the benefits of a sponge. Let's see what our artists say on that one.
Hello, my name is Tanja Gravina and I'm a hair and makeup artist of 15 years and I do nails. I'm based in Germany and I do everything from celebrity work on red carpet over fashion, so fashion week and editorial work, up to commercial and campaigns and TV, honestly, pretty much everything. So today I'm going to be answering the question if I think it's better to apply foundation with a sponge or with brushes. Personally, I feel like brushes are always the better choice. Applying is something that needs precision and thought. And brushes give you variety of choice. So the shape, the density, the bristle type, everything. And a sponge doesn't. And also any sponge has the main objective to absorb stuff. So you're going to be ending up with a foundation not the way it's been formulated because the liquid's been sucked out of it. So a blender, a beauty blender, that's what it's called. I mean, it makes sense to blend something in. So if you want to apply with a brush and then blend in quickly, like a super heavy cream foundation or a very, very intense blush, and even make it a bit softer, so you want to absorb it, then it makes sense to me. But applying something, to me, doesn't make sense at all to do it with a sponge at all. And also there's another big factor, which is the hygiene factor. So working in the professional field and not in the I'm doing it on myself on social media, which is also a professional field, but I do it on others. Hygiene is something that I have to take very seriously, and I do. So a sponge is never going to be as clean. So no matter how well you clean it, it's not going to be the same level of hygiene standard that a brush is going to have. So it's, to me, not a professional approach to use something that you can't thoroughly clean. So you either would have to give it away every single time to the talent, which is very wasteful and expensive, and so not very sustainable in a professional manner, or you would just have to not be as hygienic as you can be, which is not very professional either. So to me, I feel like that's not a good approach anyways. So unless you want to give it away and just blend it in, I feel like a brush is always a better alternative. And also I feel like it's a generational thing because I grew up without them, as well as a makeup artist, as a person as well. I don't really feel the need for them. I didn't grow up on them. I never felt like I would be better with it. And I always would pick a brush over a sponge. I don't even have them in my kit. So yeah, thanks.
Is it better to apply your foundation with a brush or a sponge? First and foremost, it depends on your preference, your lifestyle, and sometimes even your budget. There are also different types of foundation brushes, but today we'll focus on this. I don't have to worry about any streaks, and I don't have to be an expert to get it to look really good. A dense brush like this is really the most popular because it is very easy to work with. Using the motion, you can build coverage very easily, you can take your time, you can go slow, and you can have a lot of control. There are so many reasons why you might opt for a sponge. One reason for using a sponge is just how fast it is, how easy it is. Anyone can pick up a sponge and figure this out. Sponges are less intimidating. When you're using a sponge, it's a little bit more difficult to go overboard. The teardrop shape of most of them helps you get into your little corner alongside of the nose. It's one tool that can get you very far. Sponges also have a way of helping the product melt more onto the skin. I actually like to use a brush and then go in with a sponge afterward. I like a sponge all over the face, but I also love a sponge between the blush and the complexion, between the blush and the bronzer, between the bronzer and the contour, helping everything blend together in a seamless and gorgeous way. So which one's better? That's really for you to answer. What's better for you might not be better for someone else, and that's okay. Try to think more in terms of which one's better for me and do that. I hope this helped. I'm Ehlie Luna. I'll see you around.
Hi, my name is Fiona Eustace and I'm a professional makeup artist. I often get asked whether it's better to apply foundation with a brush or a sponge. So even though I feel like it is totally up to you, it's a personal preference, there is no right or wrong. This is how I like to apply my makeup, my base on myself and my clients to achieve that flawless, glowy, natural makeup. So I love to apply with a brush, but not one of these brushes. These foundation brushes, these flat, horrible brushes. I feel like these just layer the product on the top of the skin, leaving streaks. These are awful. Get rid of them. Ooh, you don't need those. I love to use brushes like this, brushes that are small, that are more domed and are less densely packed together. I feel in this way I have better control on how much I apply and where to apply it. I won't put foundation everywhere all over my face. I should strategically place it as and where I need it. And I feel like I can get what I need from these small brushes. You can really work them in to all the shapes of a face. This one is particularly beautiful and it's so soft. And so these are the ones that I will apply foundation, whether it be lotion or a cream. I just love a smaller, domed, soft brush. But then I'll always use a sponge. There's a place for a sponge, and that is to perfect any foundation or any look at the end. So this is my Kitco. I put my blusher on with this. This is my own one. So it's stained, it's clean, it's just stained, but this is like an actual cloud that is so soft. It will blur out any brush strokes or any sort of product that you have, and it will just really make it look like your skin, but the best skin you have. Did I just say that? That's such a naff thing to say, sorry. This is my Vive sponge. This is pointed so you can really get into the nooks and crannies. So I love both of these. I also love to spray a damp sponge with a makeup mist. So the Delilah one is phenomenal. It's full of like hyaluronic acid, so it really does give you the nourishment and the moisturizing, but also gives you a glow. So as a finishing product, I would always finish my look, even over powder, I would finish my look with this to give you the most skin-like finish. Those are my top tips.
Okay, next question. This is a good one. How do I choose the perfect red lipstick tone for my skin tone? This is something where people always say to me, I don't suit red. And I'm like, yes, you do. There is a red tone because everybody has skin undertone and colors have different undertones too. There is always going to be a red that suits you, like blue eyeshadow. There's always going to be a blue eyeshadow that suits you. Not that a lot of people want to use blue eyeshadow, but red isn't just red, right? Green isn't just green. You have undertones of everything. The most common kind of undertones in red lipsticks from brands, you have a blue undertone, you have an orangey undertone, and maybe a pink one. And the most basic way I can explain this is, without running over too much time, is whatever your skin undertone is, I like to add that to your lipstick. And that is the great tone for you, right? So say you have a more of a yellowy golden undertone, an orange toned red is going to look great on you. If you're more pinky, a pink undertone will look great on you. The blue undertones will look incredible on you. That's not to say nobody can wear all the other reds. Just wear whatever you want. I actually find if you go opposite, it's more of a standout red. But if you want to make the red more in tune with your skin tone, perhaps you're wearing a lipstick or you're trying a red and you're like, no, that's not great. Add your skin tone into it. I have a yellow undertone. I'm going to add yellow to red so you get more of that orangey. Looks great. I have a pink undertone. Let me add pink to red. I'm going to use more of that pinky red. Looks great. I want it to stand out. Let me go for that deeper blue. Or maybe you're an olive tone, or maybe you're quite fair with a purpley tone to your skin. There is a red tone for everyone. Let's see what our artists say on that.
Hi Robert, hope you're well. Thank you for this opportunity. And my question is how to choose the perfect red lipstick. So choosing the right red lipstick for you, I personally, as a makeup artist, would look at your undertone. So generally when we think of undertones, we have warm, cool, and we also have a neutral undertone. So the way I like to look at it, the easiest way for you guys at home is to look at the colour of your veins. So mine are more green, which makes me more olive, warm undertone. So a warmer red lipstick would suit me. So I personally would suit something like MAC Ruby Woo. If you are more of a bluey undertone, if your veins are running more blue, you're more cool. So something like Russian Red from MAC or Charlotte Tilbury Hollywood Red, I believe, would suit you quite well. And if you are more of a purpley vein, that means you're more neutral. So with those tips, you'll be able to pick the right red lipstick shade for you. Also, one other tip I really like to look at is when you are actually in store, instead of trying the lipstick on, which I wouldn't go near testers, and Robert will tell you they're gross. I worked for MAC myself, so I know what has happened to testers. I would obviously sanitize lipstick and maybe put them on the ends of your fingers. Red lipstick has a tendency to change in shade quite quickly, especially when it's on the lips. Okay, so the skin is kind of similar to your lips on the ends of your fingers. So that's another tip that I would give. Saying all that, makeup is totally personal. If you feel like wearing a red lipstick that suits you, go for it. But there are different shades of red as well. So red might mean to you a bright, perfect, pigmented red lip, okay? For some people, it's a very sheer red lip oil, or it might be a gloss, for example. So you need to pick the formula that works for you. Saying all that though, again, makeup has no rules. One size doesn't fit all. If you want to go out there and wear a red lipstick for you, go for it.
Hey there, I'm Donna DeLia and I've been a professional makeup artist for almost 20 years. I'm based in Los Angeles and I mainly work in production doing immersive events, and I have an online makeup education biz where I help other pros grow and scale their businesses too. So how do you choose the perfect red lipstick tone for your skin tone? Well, how do you define the perfect red? Most people would say that it's the red carpet classic 1950s Hollywood, and that's what I'm wearing right now. This is Ruby Woo from MAC, and this works on literally every single skin tone. I've tried it. This has a blue undertone to it and it's an opaque, full coverage lipstick. But maybe this is too bright for you and you want something a little bit more muted, which is okay because you can get a lipstick that's more sheer, or look for reds that have more orange in them, like Bricks or Rust if you have more yellow and olive skin tones. And if you're more blue or pink undertones and want more muted, look for reds that have more purple in them, making them burgundy, mauve, or plum. There's lots of variables to what the perfect red lip is for you. And I'm that type of person that's convinced you can wear whatever color you want regardless of your skin tone. You can make it work with your eyeshadows, your hair color, or the clothes you're wearing. But ultimately, go with a classic red like this or Russian red, also from MAC, because even though they're blue undertones and lean more cool, they can pair really well with warm colors like bronzes and golds, as well as cool tones like taupes. And if you want to wear red yet feel intimidated, do what I did. Put it on and keep checking yourself out in all of the mirrors. Give yourself a chance to get used to it, and before you know it, you'll be feeling yourself. Red is sexy on everyone, including you. I hope this helps.
This is how to pick out your red lipstick. Hey guys, this is Laurent. I'm a Montreal-based makeup artist. I want to thank Robert for having me on his channel today and allowing me to share my knowledge concerning color theory and how to pick the perfect shade of lipstick. I know you've seen like your favorite celebrity on the red carpet rocking a red lip and you thought, I'm gonna try that at home. And then once you tried it, you kind of looked like a clown because it wasn't the right shade of red. I know red can be daunting as a color, but I'm telling you it doesn't have to be, and once you find the perfect shade of red, it will never let you down. You might have noticed that I have 2 shades of red on my lips right now. It's to give you a visual representation of what undertones look like on my skin, which is for reference a neutral one. I'm gonna give you like 5 seconds to figure out mentally which one is cool, which one is warm. Alright, this one is cool, and this one is a warm tone, which means there's more orange in it, there's more yellow. This one has more like a purple, bluey undertone. You'll first need to understand your undertone to figure out what red looks best. To do that, you can also do the jewelry method. You can try silver or gold. If you're silver, you're cool. If gold looks better on you, you are warm tone. You can also do the veins method. If you look at your veins and they are blue, purple, you're likely cool. And if they're green or appearing, more greenish, you're warm. If you're still feeling lost and confused and you don't know what your undertone is, don't give up, because I'm gonna have a video up on my TikTok page soon explaining how to figure out your undertone with a fail-proof method. Once you find out your undertone, it's just a matter of checking which lipstick is leaning cool. And if you don't know, you can also lay them side by side like I did, and you'll definitely have a better idea of which one is cooler. This one looks like a bloodstain, and this one looks more of like a tomato. And to me, I think this one looks better on my skin tone, even though they look kind of both okay. They look kind of both good. I feel like when you look at this, this is pretty. This is very pretty. It's another look, but if we're thinking bright red that fit my skin tone, I think this side is a little better, since it's kind of like enhancing my golden hue, if you may. Last but not least, remember that warm attracts warm and enhances it. So if your teeth are a bit more yellow, if you have a yellower enamel, you drink coffee, wine, all of that, you might want to stick to a truer red or a blue-based red, because it's going to help kind of tone down the yellowness in the teeth. All right, thank you for hanging around. I think that's it for my lipstick capsule. And remember, if you're feeling unsure about if your red is warm or neutral or cool, you can always lay them side by side, and that's going to give you a really good idea of which is which. And you can also try them out on your lip using maybe a piece of paper in the mirror and looking side by side. Which one looks best? All right, see you later.
Okay, so the next question is, I have oily skin. How do I stop my makeup breaking up? Actually can't wait to see other people's advice on this. My advice for this, as a lot of you know, is I like to tackle the source of what breaks down your makeup. Oil breaks down our makeup, right, from our skin, especially for us oily people. External factors can also, dry skin can be quite problematic in terms of texture, but it's not really breaking it down, it's just making it drier. So I prefer to create a layer before you do your foundation. Skincare as normal, the light kind of skincare, serums, like gel textures rather than thick, heavy creams. Lightweight hydration, lightweight moisturizers. I then personally like to use a mattifying product. So a mattifying setting spray. Parnell do the mattifying water cushion, which is like a layer that just completely mattifies. Setting spray is a good one, a mattifying setting spray, because you can create almost like a sheet-like veil on the skin, and it won't completely stop because oily people are oily, but it really helps prevent how quick it happens, if that makes sense. So if I'm going to an event and I want my makeup to last a good 6 hours, this technique really works for me. Setting spray over the whole face, let it dry down, fan it dry, and then go on with your makeup as normal. Control how much you're using. The less heavy layers you do, the less makeup there is to break down. Now that doesn't mean you can't do foundation, powder, blush, powder, so just do light layers as you go. Then you can set again with a powder or a mattifying setting spray. The only ones I have found really work are one size mattifying setting spray, the Milk a Pore Eclipse setting spray, and the one I use in my tattoo in Disney, which is Kryolan, or most like theatre brands do quite heavy duty ones. So that's my advice. Let's see what the artist had to say.
Hi, I'm Terika, the owner of Mean Girls Aesthetics, where we specialize in helping you look and feel your absolute best. Today's question is, I have oily skin. How do I keep my makeup from breaking up? Great question. Here's what I recommend. My first go-to product is the e.l.f. Matte Putty Primer. It's super affordable and perfect for controlling oil and creating a smooth matte base. Trust me, it keeps your makeup locked in all day long without breaking the bank. Second, don't skip hydration. I absolutely love using the Pond's Beauty Cream. Before applying makeup, even with oily skin, keeping your skin balanced with the right moisture is key to preventing excess oil and ensuring your makeup stays flawless. With these two products, you will have a shine-free, long-lasting look every time. Thank you.
So the question is, I have oily skin. How do I stop my makeup from separating? You've come to the right place because I've had oily skin for most of my life. As I've gotten older, it's changed to more oily combination. My name is Nisrine. I'm a professional makeup artist and beauty content creator here on social media. To answer this question, I am going to put product difficulties aside. I know a lot of people say that you shouldn't mix bases together like oil, water, silicone, but that's rarely a problem in today's day and age, only because a lot of the products formulated today are formulated to work with different types of products. So most of the time that isn't going to be an issue. So I'm going to assume that that isn't for this video. There are going to be a few tips that I'm going to give you here. You can use one of them, all of them, or none of them, depending on what works for you. Remember that all oily skin is not the same. Oil is a very tricky substance because when it mixes in with products, it is going to change the way that product behaves. So the first step I'm going to give you, I think, is the most important one out of the bunch, and that is to start on a clean canvas. As an oily skin person, if you're starting with an oily base, that's like trying to paint a polished shoe. It is going to separate, it's going to crack, it is not going to stick to your base. So we are going to wash our face and, if needed, a lightly textured scrub or even a makeup towel to wipe away that excess oil residue. Once we've eliminated that oil, we are going to rehydrate because products are going to crack on dry skin as well. But the way we're going to hydrate is with a gel moisturizer. Forget the embryolisse, forget things that are heavy and oily. We have that oil. We don't need an extra dose of that oil. So use a gel-based moisturizer, anything that's light. You can even use a hyaluronic acid serum, but nothing that is oily that is going to turn your face into a slip and slide. Now we want to lock that hydration in, but minimize the amount of oil that is being secreted from the face. So I would suggest using a mattifying primer. I love the Hourglass Veil Primer. I also love the Shiseido Waso Primer. You can find primers that are formulated for oily skin. The next step is foundation. The foundation you use obviously should be formulated for oily skin. Of course, oily skin comes on a spectrum. For me, for example, I can get away with using foundations that are formulated for normal to combination skin types. Once you've found the right foundation for you, I would go in very thin layers. I do not want to go in thick layers. You should not have a thick foundation base. Remember, the more you clog up your face, the more it's going to react with that excess oil production, which is going to separate your makeup and going to break it up on your skin. And use the least amount of product in the areas of your face that tend to get very oily. So instead of using the most amount of product here and spreading it, use the most amount of product here and then spread it lightly to the center of your face. Just don't make this area very thick with product. If you are extremely oily, you can stay away from the liquid and cream products, so using a powder foundation might work better for you. Using all powder products might work better for you. When using powder, I know not a lot of people like this, but I do believe in baking. But you have to use a thin layer of powder, foundation, or loose powder first to set those creams and liquids, and then go in the very, very oily areas. Again, the T-zone areas, like for example here where you would crease or get very oily throughout the day. I would put a little bit extra there, leave it for a couple of minutes, and then brush that off. Not a lot of people are a fan of this method, but for me, I do like it. Lastly, but also importantly, use a mattifying setting spray. For example, the Urban Decay All Nighter Matte is an excellent choice for people with oily skin. It sets your makeup and it also decreases your oil production throughout the day.
Hi. My name is Izz. I'm a makeup artist and cosmetologist based in San Francisco, and I'm also a content creator here on the internet. Alright, so the question was, if I have oily skin, how do I keep my makeup from breaking up throughout the day? And I found that with oily skin, there's usually two primary factors that cause this, one of which is skin prep or lack thereof, and the other is product choice and application. So we're going to go over both. In my opinion, skin prep is usually the culprit for why people's base makeup doesn't look or wear the way they want it to, but especially for those with oily skin. I found that oily skin responds best to layers of lightweight hydrating products such as milky toners, serums, essences, and gel-based moisturizers. What I use in my kit is the CosRx Centella Toning Mist, the Pyeongkang Yul Essence Toner, and the Omega Water Cream by the Inkey List. Once the skin is hydrated, let everything sink in for a couple minutes, and then you can get started on the base. For priming, I like to use a mattifying primer such as the Danessa Myricks Blurring Balm Powder or the e.l.f. Matte Putty Primer, only where my client gets oily, and then just an extra layer of the moisturizer we used everywhere else. If you have any areas you know get especially oily, you can also go in with a thin layer of a loose translucent powder, such as Maybelline Fit Me or Laura Mercier. I usually like to apply the powder step with either a damp sponge or a small setting brush. Then you can add a layer of a long-lasting setting spray. My favorite is the Sunset Makeup one. It lasts through everything. But another great option is Urban Decay All Nighter, Charlotte Tilbury setting spray. There's many on the market these days that work very well. Now you can go in and apply the rest of your makeup as usual, and the final step is going to be a fixing spray. A fixing spray is usually alcohol-based and tends to be a little bit drying, but it will make your makeup bulletproof. There are plenty of excellent fixing sprays out there, but some really popular ones is the One Size On Till Dawn, which you can get at Sephora, and Ben Nye Final Seal, which is a little harder to find, but it's used a lot in film and theater and works very, very well. And those are all the steps I take for a long-wearing base on my oily skinned clients. I hope you guys enjoyed, I hope you learned something, and I hope to see you around. Peace.
Okay, last but not least, another question I'm asked all the time, and actually a question I'm quite passionate about, is can I use contour as bronzer? Technically, in a technical way, no, but also yes. So let's break this down. Contour is mimicking the shadow of your bone structure to either enhance what's already there or to change what's there, right? Contour is shadow. Bronzer is bronzed. So it's that warmth, it's that sun kiss, it's that adding some dimension to the face. So is bronzer contour? No, because the colors aren't the same. There are some bronzers that are a little bit colder, which you can kind of use, but technically bronzing is not contouring, right? Contouring is that thing. Can you use bronzer to add structure and dimension to the face? Absolutely. It's not contouring, technically, officially. So my answer to that is yes, you can use bronzer to add structure to the face. You can use a bronzer to add dimension, to add, you know, some definition. Is it contouring? No, because contouring is quite literally a different technique with different colors. But yes, yes. Okay, maybe the artist can get a little bit more in depth on that one.
Hello, my name is Derick Cich. I've been a makeup artist based in Minnesota for over 15 years. Can you use bronzer to contour? Like many beauty-related questions, the answer to this isn't simple. Bronzers and contours are developed for completely different things, but they can overlap a little bit depending on the look you're going for. So let's get the basics straight. Bronzer is typically used to add warmth to your skin, like you just got back from vacation, often with a little bit of glow or shimmer to give you that I've been on the beach look. Contour products, on the other hand, are really all about mimicking shadow, really just giving you depth to the face. These products usually have a cool tone to achieve the effects of looking like a shadow. On paper, they're two very different creatures, but since the 2010s, when the market became flooded with products, things got a little muddy. But for now, let's assume that bronzers are more warm and often glowy, and contour products are more matte and cool toned. If you're aiming for a soft, more natural look, bronzer will work great. This will add some dimension to your face. Just get a less dense brush, gently sweep under the cheekbones, around the temples, the forehead, and you'll give yourself some contrast while remaining really, really soft and natural. The tip with that is just not to go too heavy-handed or it will look a little synthetic. But if you're feeling ambitious and really want to sculpt the cheekbones, reshape bone structure, bronzer will not cut it. Those warm, beautiful, glowy aspects of bronzer will just end up looking kind of muddy, and balancing light out of shadow really completely defeats the purpose of wanting to recede shadow because it just bounces light out, making things look bigger. Contouring is all about illusion, and to achieve those really true shadowy looks, you need a cool tone. Think grays, blues, even purples. Depending on your skin tone, you'll find a variety of different undertones, but as long as they're cool and you stick with a matte texture, you're in the right ballpark. Now, this is where things get a little bit messy. Nowadays, I have often found bronzers that are more cool, matte, sometimes violet undertoned, and unfortunately, contour products that are more orangey and warm. Not all products are created equal, and the boundaries between these types of products are really starting to get really murky and blurred. So whether it's a bronzer or a contour or a random eyeshadow, whatever that works for you and your skin tone, as long as it's darker than your skin, more cool toned, and very, very matte, do your thing. You should be able to get away with that effect as long as you follow those simple rules. Those are the tips I have for creating those really believable shadows. Thank you so much to Robert for having me. This was so much fun. I hope you learned a few things. Have a wonderful day. Ciao.
Hi, I'm Christine O'Connor. I'm a pro makeup artist of 13 years here in Ireland, and I used to do YouTube as well, but honestly filming this has given me the bug again, so who knows what 2025 will hold. And I'm answering the question, can you use bronzer to contour? So I'm going to say yes, because what is contouring? Technically it is to outline or define something, and in makeup we do that with shading with products. So to me, yes, you can add that definition with a matte bronzer. However, it will give a bit of a different effect. If you were after a truly sculpted look with the illusion of shadow and the illusion of changing the bone structure, then you might want to opt for a true contour shade. So something with more neutral undertones, maybe even really grey undertones, especially for lighter skin tones. I actually quite like something with a little bit of olive in it, so it's kind of in between. And I would often layer bronzer with contour for dimension anyway. So I find that you can use one or the other or both for different effects. But honestly, I think for most people in most circumstances doing their makeup, contouring or adding definition with a matte bronzer will do the trick.
Can I use bronzer to contour? Hi, I'm Tiffany, makeup artist, product developer, and founder of Nosta Beauty. Let's talk about if you could use bronzer to contour. Here's the deal. It all depends on your skin tone, the bronzer's tone, and the formula. Undetectable. That's key. You have to keep in mind that bronzers are designed to give you that warmth. Contours are there to create shadows and really sculpt your face. Me personally, I love to bronze tour or neutral bronzer so that it doubles as a contour. You want to place it in the temples, on your forehead, under your cheekbone, even your nose and your jawline. Don't do what I did in the early 2000s. Yeah. Don't put bronzer all over your face. Could use bronzer as contour if you're lazy like me. Focus on the tone, placement, and texture, and you'll be good to go.
Okay, I hope you enjoyed that video. I'm really looking forward to editing this and seeing what everyone has to say. I really hope I kind of drove forward my point here. And everyone's learned something from it, that you know, you don't just follow one person blindly or give credit to someone because they have more followers over someone else, or no followers at all, or maybe they're not even on social media. Social media doesn't equal knowledge, especially in our climate. Anyway, thank you so much again for joining me. Thank you to every single one of those artists. I greatly value your time and your knowledge, and I exceptionally appreciate you sharing all that with the people watching my content. So thank you so much again. Check them all out down below in the description box. I will see you very, very soon. Bye.